It's a pleasure, and indeed it's an honor to be in the land of freedom. Tanzania, for us, represents freedom. Tanzania, for us, represents a platform which will grow our African identity and take us forward as a people. Our topic for today, basically looking at African patriotism and COVID-19, the lessons and the opportunities. Maybe if I can request for the cameras, is it okay if I'm able to walk up and down? I feel very, very constrained standing in one place. If I can have a roving mic, is that comfortable? If it's not, I'll stand here. But if it's okay, I'd prefer to be able to move around. Whilst you're sorting yourselves out, Dr. Rioba has indicated that I come from an organization called the School of African Awareness. I'll briefly lay a foundation as to what exactly the School of African Awareness is about. The School of African Awareness is primarily founded for the purposes of helping us as African people to begin to address what it is that the colonial education has done to damage the African mind. A lot of us are where we are now as African people because of an education system that has taught us and told us that other races are better than who we are. And you find some of us, especially the young now, yes, some of the elders as well, are still caught in a position whereby we look to the West for direction in anything and everything that we do. And we look down upon ourselves as African people to a point of hating ourselves as African people. Hence the reason why the School of African Awareness, because it is calling out to the African man, woman, and child and saying, African, begin to be aware of the greatness of who you are. Dr. Rioba was talking about Queen Zinga. One of the things that we emphasize and we teach within the School of African Awareness is the importance even of the women, the African women, to realize that your greatness as an African emanates from the fact that you come from a whole line of great queens of Africa. From the Candaces, the warrior queens of Ethiopia, from Hatshepsut, from Ya Ashantewa, from Queen Zinga. You are basically the mothers of the nation, and you should never look down upon yourselves in as far as who you are as Africans. The School of African Awareness has different arms, one called UPOND, or Community Network, whereby that is the platform you communicate one with the other. And we have started what we call Kululingondom Africa, which means free your mind in Africa, because the African mind is still caught up and locked up. Why are we talking about African patriotism today? I would like us to understand firstly what we are talking about when we talk about an African. When we are talking about an African, we are talking about the global African nation. We are talking about a scenario where whether you are born on the continent or you are born outside the continent of Africa, as long as within your veins you've got the blood of an African, you are an African. We do not differentiate. And I would love, when we speak today, when I say what I say today, there's so many people who when they speak, they love to say, what I say do not take personally. I will say to you today, whatever I say, do take it personally, because I'm talking to you. When we talk about patriotism, we're talking about love. We're talking about devotion. We're talking about basically commitment to the motherland. We're talking about commitment to the nation. That is why I'm in Tanzania today, because it's my commitment to Africa. It's my commitment to the global African nation. It's my commitment to the people of Tanzania, because if you hate Tanzania, you've hate me as well. Because I'm an African just as much as you are Africans. So whatever happens to Tanzania basically happens to me, because I am an African. We are faced with a situation right now where there is COVID-19 right around the world, so we are told. What does this mean to us as African people? What does this mean to you as an African today, the fact that there is COVID-19? For some, it simply means let's run away and hide and make sure that we don't get caught up in this thing. For some, it simply means whatever the World Health Organization, whatever the West, whatever the East says, these are the ways that we should follow. These are the things that we should do. For some, it means if people like President Magufuli says, let's take an African approach to it, we then go and insult him because he's not following what other people are saying. But what I am saying to you today, what I am asking you to basically think about today, from where you stand, what is your understanding? What are the questions that we need to be asking before we can reach conclusions which do not advance our interests as African people? What President Magufuli has basically done is to trigger the African mind to begin to question some of these things. If you say there is this disease and you are saying there is this particular test which will tell me if I've got the disease or not, how does this test work? If this test can find a pawpaw to be COVID positive, if this test can find a goat to be COVID positive, how accurate is this test? You take the test, how reliable is that particular test? How reliable is that particular result? If you go and take the test, it gives you a result and says you are negative. And in saying you are negative, it goes on to explain and say, negative means you do not have the SARS-CoV-2 RNA. And then it proceeds to say, even if you don't have the SARS-CoV-2 RNA, because that's what the test says, it does not mean you do not have COVID-19. And then proceeds to say, no doctor can use this result to determine how to treat a patient. So what does that mean? What exactly are we dealing with here? The quality of the question that you ask is directly responsible and directly related to the quality of the life that you lead. If you ask meaningless questions, you will lead a meaningless life. Ask meaningful questions, you will lead a meaningful life. So now, this is why President Magufuli asks these questions, so that whatever policy that the government of Tanzania comes up with, it's policy that is informed by science and informed by real answers to real questions, not just a blind follower. I'm glad that I'm talking to young people today. I'm glad that I'm talking to people who still have fresh minds. I'm glad that I'm talking to people who basically have the ability to run, who have the ability to interrogate issues, the people who have the ability to get onto the internet and do some research. Maybe for some of you, getting Wi-Fi and getting data is simply to get onto social media, get onto WhatsApp, get onto Twitter, get onto Facebook, get onto Instagram, get onto TikTok, and get onto whatever else you get onto. What I would love for you to begin to ask yourself today, when was the last time you were on social media? And when you were on social media, what were you posting? Were you posting anything that adds value to Tanzania, or were you just posting something which is absolutely meaningless? Were you posting anything that adds value to Africa? Were you posting anything that adds value to the global African nation? Were you posting anything that takes us to a deeper understanding of who we are as a nation and how we can get ourselves out of the situation that we find ourselves in? Don't undermine the power that you have. Don't undermine the power of social media as against simply posting your plate of plantain and chango. Post something that will speak to exactly what we are dealing with today. Post something that will begin to question as to when we are talking about COVID-19 today and talking about the policies of lockdown. What are the issues pertaining to lockdown in as far as who we are African people? A lot of people challenged President Magufuli when he said we are not going to lock down Tanzania. And he was insulted left, right, and center across the world and in Tanzania itself. But are you aware that the Kenyan Wall Street just last week issued a report to say that Tanzania's economy grew the fastest in Africa in 2020? Was it a mistake not to lock down, or was it the right thing not to lock down if the economy grew and everyone else's economy went down? Further, we need to begin to ask ourselves, what has happened to our pride? What has happened to African identity? What has happened to African indigenous systems of knowledge? Why is it that when I feel sick, I am more comfortable running to the pharmacy and buying a tablet whose ingredients I do not know? Yet there is African medication which can also give me the same result, if not a better result. One of the things I would like you to research on, one of the things I want you to be able to look into and begin to understand and begin to contextualize and begin to see what exactly it means to us as African people is that our medication, because it's natural and because we are natural beings, cures us. But when you get synthetic drugs, you basically live off the drugs for the rest of your life because it just makes you feel better. If you think I'm wrong, go and research it. Go and find out. Go and see how exactly this works for us as African people. My challenge to each and every one of you today is look at yourself. Look at your own sphere of influence. Look at where you are today as an African young person. President Magufuli has basically indicated that the young people must begin to take responsibility so that this country and indeed this continent will fall into the hands of responsible people. I've heard a saying which goes, today is the tomorrow I was waiting for yesterday. Are we together? Where they say today is the tomorrow I was waiting for yesterday. Basically meaning that there are some people who are waiting for tomorrow. Are we together? I would like to challenge you on that particular aspect. If you are one of those people who is sitting here today as a youth and you are waiting for tomorrow, you are waiting to be an elder so that you can begin to be active in as far as taking your role in taking Africa forward, in taking responsibility for the direction that we are going in as African people, I would like to say to you, stop waiting for tomorrow. Let today be the tomorrow you were preparing for yesterday. How are you preparing for tomorrow? How are you preparing for taking Tanzania forward? How are you preparing for taking Africa forward? What is it that you are doing in the here and now that will influence the direction in which Africa is going in? Think about it at a personal level. Think about it, whatever it is that you are involved in. You are at school, you are outside school, you're working, you're not working, whatever it is that you are doing, how is it adding value to the nation of Tanzania? How is it adding value to the African continent? How is it adding value to the global African nation? You will notice that I keep going back to the global African nation. I keep going back to the aspect of nationhood because it's even wrong for us to be talking about Tanzania, Malawi, South Africa, Nigeria, because all these are artificial borders which were created to keep us divided as African people. And that is why we are in the situation that we are in right now. Some of you are probably sitting there looking at me and thinking, this is a foreigner. I am not a foreigner. There is no one who is a foreigner in Africa if they are an African. You will never be a foreigner as long as you are on the land of your ancestors. This is our land. This is our African homeland. And we lay claim to it, not by mistake, not by force, but simply because we are basically the product of this particular land. And that is why we are the African people that we are. The time has come for us to begin to question why it is that we look down upon ourselves as African people. The time has come when we have to begin to ask ourselves, why is it that we give value to Western science more than we do give value to our own African science? When you start to ask those questions, you'll begin to ask again the question, why is it that President Magufuli was saying, let us put Tanzania first? What does Tanzania first mean? In your understanding, what does Tanzania first mean? When President Magufuli says, let us put Tanzania first, he is basically saying to each and every one of us, to each and every young person in the room, to each and every elder in the room, it's high time that when we think about our future, when we think about our nation, we think of benefiting Tanzanians in the land of Tanzania. Some people are fighting with that notion. You find Africans fighting against Tanzanians being put first by a government of Tanzania. One of the most important things that Tanzania First is talking to is that you should not have to go through school, finish school, and then you start queuing up for jobs in foreign companies. But it is saying, let the wealth of Tanzania, let the processing of the minerals and the resources of Tanzania be the employment creation platform for the people of Tanzania, for the benefit of the people of Tanzania. Our raw products, our raw materials, our raw minerals are going to other countries to create employment for other nations. Other people are basically kept at work because of the products that come off the continent, yet we have the highest unemployment around. I would love, like I'm saying, for you to begin to question things, for you to begin to think carefully about the things that President Magufuli is saying. One of the reasons why I am here in Tanzania is to come and study for myself and to see for myself and come on a fact-finding mission as to how exactly do we take this teaching and Africanize it. Africanize it in the sense that how do we make it relevant to the whole of Africa, because we can hear what he is saying and we identify with what he is saying, and we want to ensure that it does not end here. We want, my brothers and sisters, to ensure that this vision, this mission that President Magufuli has basically started does not end with him. Look at that picture there. You see what he is holding? A torch. Are you familiar with the Olympics? How the Olympic runners, one will get the torch, run with it, hand it over to the next one, run with it, hand it over to the next one, run with it, hand it over to the next one. How many of you in this room are ready to take up that torch and run with it? Don't lift up your hand to please me. Lift up your hand because you genuinely believe that you want to be the person that will take up that torch and run with it. You are ready to say, President Magufuli, the day your time comes to step down, I am in line to take up that torch. Who is ready to take up that torch? Who is ready to basically come up and say, Africa, this is my time to stand strong and show that we as African people have the ability to stand on our own. We as African people have the necessary brains to do things for the benefit of Africa. We as African people have the necessary ability to hold each other's hand. Hold my hand, my brother. We hold each other's hands and we run together. When I am fumbling, the brother will pick me up. When he is fumbling, I will pick him up. My sister, hold my hand. When my sister is fumbling, I will pick her up. When I'm fumbling, she picks me up. Because at the end of the day, we are family. The global African nation is family. The support that we are giving to Tanzania right now is not purely to say on Facebook we will say we support, on Twitter we will say we support, on WhatsApp we will send each other pictures and say, oh wow, look at what President Magufuli has said. Put a clap hand, put a smile, put a lol, put whatever you put. But we are saying our commitment to the people of Tanzania is that we are together, we are one, and we will make sure that Project Tanzania, as led by President Magufuli, is going to be the success. And when we say Project Tanzania, and when we talk about President Magufuli, we talk about President Magufuli as a representative of the nation of Tanzania. He cannot do it alone. He cannot do it alone. He needs for us to be able to take our positions, for us to be able to take our responsibility. We on the continent, from other parts of the continent, have taken that position. Some of our brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, in Europe, in Americas, in the Caribbean, have also taken up their position. But the most important thing is, where are the Tanzanians to also take up their position? Who is the Tanzanian right now who is ready to take up their position and ready to take that torch and run with it? This is the question that will become fundamental. This is the question that will determine who exactly is worthy to stand in the gap for the African nation. Who exactly is worthy to see themselves not according to their ethnic group, not according to being a Tanzanian because you are born in a country which was cut up and called Tanzania, but to see yourself as one who belongs to the motherland of Africa. One who will rise up and say, if the situation in Ambazonia is such that the Ambazonians are still going through colonialism, maybe some of you have never heard of Ambazonia. Ambazonia is the on the western side of Cameroon, who are still being colonized by the French. What is your position? What is your situation today? What commitment are you making to yourself? What commitment are you making to the global African nation? What commitment are you making to the nation of Tanzania to ensure that what has been started will be seen through to the end? Things don't happen on their own. Independence doesn't come on its own. Freedom doesn't come on its own. It's human beings, flesh and blood like we are in here, who make things happen, or we become the stumbling blocks for things to happen. I will round up, and I suspect my 15 minutes is over, or nearly over. Otherwise, if I'm not kept abreast with time, we'll be here the whole time. My brothers and sisters, I thank you very much. Asante sana.